All right, you guys, welcome to the Design in Mind podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Johnson. I am here with Sean Wilson with WK Wilson. Welcome. And I'm also here with, oh my goodness, Caleb Zander. I'm going to mess this all up. Caleb Vanderhoff. I'm like going a million miles an hour in my mind. I need to breathe and slow down. So Caleb Vanderhoff, and he's actually the producer of our show. Welcome, both of you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you excited to be here, or is the rain almost washing everything away?
Nah,
I don't know if you guys have seen the floods.
There's an excitement here.
There's an excitement here today. Oh,
could
good.
be the rain.
I'm glad the rain
something.
didn't discourage anything for this morning. We had a lot of technical difficulties this morning, but we got through it, right? So today I've been really kind of thinking about what are we going to talk about on the podcast, because a lot of the things that we do, we just kind of, just improvise, don't we? And we want to have like a general theme.
As you say, you don't want to tell people that we're going off cuff, are you?
I don't know.
No, we've planned this.
Yeah.
To go off cuff.
There's teleprompters right around here, over here,
and
here.
And it says fake it here.
Yeah, it's just scrolling. Fake, yeah. Right? Fake it. No, we really do have a theme. Yeah. We do have a theme. I want to read this real quick, but it is a tongue twister that we were practicing a woodchuck. How does it go? Woodchuck.
We're good. Keep going.
No, he had a really good one.
How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck
chuck
would?
Yeah, okay. So you should introduce what the theme is, because I'm going to mess this up.
So I'm going to be able to read your handwriting?
No, probably not. I'm going to maybe say
Go for it.
I'm going to say it and then see if you can repeat it for me. So adversity is the gift to the master that can wield it for good. Dun, dun, dun.
Right. So you're saying a bunch of stuff with that title.
Trying to.
Yeah. So you're saying, first of all, we're going to be talking about hard things, right?
I love this. Okay. Yeah. Keep going. I love this.
And we're going to talk about how hard things can take you down, but can also make you something if there's a purpose behind it, or if there's a direction behind it.
I think the great of all greats have figured out how to take adversity and use it to their advantage. That's kind of what I want to focus on.
Instead of letting it tear them down, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. They actually use it as fuel. Like my wife and I just watched a documentary last night talking about Olympians and what they go throughout their whole entire life just for like a 40-minute segment that will affect everything. And the fact that they can focus in and they can overcome a lot of these challenges, and they actually do use adversity to their favor. A lot of Olympians have actually failed many, many, many times, and then that's what's driven them to become some of the greatest. But then it's interesting because we were watching a particular snowboarder. I won't name his name because he tried to compete after he had won the Olympics and won several gold medals, actually, and he couldn't compete because of that whole mental crash towards the adversity now overtaking him. He's like, I've lost my purpose and why I'm doing this. So it's a mental thing. Like, it's okay. Time out. I don't want to sit here and say that it's so easy and adversity is just like, oh yeah, just get over it. Right. You just got diagnosed with cancer. Oh well, deal with it. You need to master and wield that for good. Oh come on, buck up, buddy. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the fact that if we can have maybe a paradigm shift towards what adversity could potentially do for us. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think adversity, it's something that everyone faces, and whether you're...
No one's exempt.
Right, exactly.
Never.
Well, you go through your life, and sometimes you feel like you're pretty good and you're perfect and everything like that. And then other times you feel really, really down on yourself.
I never feel perfect.
And
I was wondering what he was talking about.
I want to grow up to be Caleb.
I think, let me rephrase this. So,
No.
In different ways,
I will phrase it for you because this gentleman is a good man. I'm not surprised you said something like that.
Well, I think sometimes you feel like, okay, I'm in the right here and I'm doing well. And then, the next day happens and you're like, oh, wow, that was a hard day. And I think if we use that adversity to our advantage and help us become better, then, we'll just keep on improving and learning from our mistakes. And so, I really like that point that you brought up where, adversity is the gift to the master that can wield it for good.
And wield is an interesting word, and I want to focus on that more than anything. Because I was starting this out yielding. For some reason, I was saying adversity is the gift to the master that can yield it for good. And I talked to somebody that gives me a lot of coaching, and like, why are you using the word yield? You don't want to yield to the adversity. What are you talking? You want to wield it. And I was like, that's it. So as the process of someone going through and like building a nice samurai sword, like the hundreds or maybe even thousands of years of knowledge passed down from generation to generation, and how they are masterful and how they've melted and formed this craft, right? They have figured out something that was huge adversity for that society at the time, because their weapons were taken away, right? They had to mold and adapt in their culture, and so they created this craft in order to protect all their people, and it was sacred to them. But it all came because of war, because of adversity, and they became craftsmen, and now they're world known for that particular, not only in their swords but just in their culture in general. I mean, they don't. I mean, if you look at Japanese culture, everything that they do and everything that they work on is just gorgeous. The only other place I could ever even try to compare it to is Lord of the Rings. You know, when you walk into the elves and their station, and they live
Lord
for
of the Rings is fake, right? I mean, just
well,
fiction.
yeah.
Okay.
You have the Japanese that are real.
Wait,
and then
what?
you have
No, time out here. No,
Keep going.
Frodo, come on.
Finish your.
The whole point of the author of that book. Thank you for keeping me straight there. How
is
he
it
really,
J.R.R. Tolkien?
yeah, he really
Tolkien.
wanted to portray
Tolkien.
this society that had lived for so long, and as they've lived for so long, they don't do anything just, it's not like a cheap hamburger, right? They make a beautiful masterpiece out of everything that they do. And that's the thing, is I want us to figure out a way that when we have a challenge that comes inward, that we have the confidence that we are masterful enough to figure out how to not only navigate through this, but take it one step further and figure out how in the world are we going to turn it for good. And so for me in my life, and I'm doing all the talking and I don't want to do that. For me in my life, I think I've finally gotten to a point where I look back at the things that have happened to me, and I'm actually very grateful for them, every one of it. And that's really hard to swallow. If you truthfully can say that about things that have happened in your life that are just rotten, I think that's the process of trying to master that. I don't know. What do you guys think? Yes.
Yeah.
No, I'll just nod. 'Cause
I think
it's deep. It's
yeah.
deep.
Yeah, I mean, everyone goes through life and they have experiences that they're not necessarily proud of, but they've learned something from that. And I think that's what's important.
And I think a lot of people have gone through things that aren't their fault. I mean, if you get diagnosed with cancer,
you didn't bring that up as if it was all your fault. I mean, everything.
I would say majority of my stuff is my fault. I'll raise that, sure. But I know there's somebody listening to the podcast is like, oh, you don't understand.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah,
You
don't.
This abuse or this person
Right.
or whatever it might
Right.
be that has triggered you into conflict or triggered you even into depression or all of these different holes that you can accidentally fall into. I mean, I'm very aware. I'm not trying to downplay those circumstances. And like I said, just, buck up and everything's gonna be great. That's not what I'm talking about. I just feel like, we tend to look at our future and we dismiss all faith because we're so protective and we're so paranoid that we aren't creative enough to solve the problems that may come. And so if we can somehow look at the past and master the adversity that we've been through, then I hope that would give us confidence for the future, for us to be able to say, you know what, okay, let the future come. I'm not going to be reckless. I'm not going to try to ask for things to happen to me that are bad, but I'm going to go into that and I'm going to have the attitude of, I think I can get through it.
Well, and don't you, when you get through something really hard, there's some power of looking back and going, well, heck, I got through that. Bring on the next thing. If I can get through that, what are you going to throw at me?
Right. Well, it's funny because there's a silly little thing about the car seat, putting the kids in the car seat. If you're a new parent, you know what I'm talking about. Like the hassle of a kid.
Adversity of putting a kid in
Yes.
the car seat.
Oh, no, that's to your point. Trust me. When you've got, and you're not experienced, and then they've got a cup of juice in their hand.
Oh yeah, I let my daughter put the grandkids in. It's like, I'm not doing that. Yeah,
exactly. And then the other day I just did it, not even thinking, and they were in and we were off. And I was halfway down the road before I realized, oh my gosh, you know how much I used to hate just putting the kid in the car seat just to do that. And now I'm like doing it. But then that's just a simple thing. But then you take it to things like where I've seen people that have cancer. And we'll talk about that right after this break.
Today's sponsor is Temple in Mind. Gazing upon the house of the Lord reminds us of the simple phrase, choose the right. This powerful reminder turns us back to temples time and time again, and gives us the strength to carry on through the best and worst of times. They love temples and what they represent, so they have a collection of timeless, unique items to help keep your home centered around what really matters. At Temple in Mind, they have something for everyone and every occasion. They hope you'll be as excited as they are to help light the world with items that truly keep temples in mind. Visit their store at the University Place Mall in Orem, Utah, or check out their website at templeinmind.com.
All right, welcome back to Zion in Mind, the podcast here. We're filming in my store here at Temple in Mind at the University Place Mall. Welcome back. We've got Sean Wilson here with WK Wilson and Caleb Vanderhoff he's the producer of our show here. So welcome you guys again. We were talking about adversity and the power. Sean brought up a very good word and that's power. But we were also talking about putting kids in the car and different weird things like that. But you also brought up something that was kind of interesting over the break, where we were talking about like age and learning things and developing. What do you think in your experience as being the old man, as you say? What would you say that adversity has kind of taught you? Or has it shaped any influences towards what you do for your future?
So first, I want to clarify. He's the one that called himself the old man. Not,
Thanks, Caleb.
Not Aaron. No.
Caleb just saved me.
No, and honestly, Sean doesn't look that old.
That's
way.
okay. I got to be the young guy for a long, long time. So
I would think late
whatever
30s,
works.
Late 30s.
No, you're totally lying. That is totally wrong.
I think the only safe answer is 39.
You're still totally lying.
Just be like, all right. Whatever.
Besides the point. Okay. So I have a really trite and simple way of looking at things. So when you know how the news media spins things. I mean, somebody says something and oh my heck, it's the end of the world, right?
Right.
So what they do is they spin it a certain way to make you feel a certain thing.
Right.
Okay. So in my life, I've kind of come to the conclusion that sometimes when we get hit with something, we're just not looking at it the right way.
Yeah.
We haven't spun it the correct way. So, yeah, I remember having a conversation with myself and everything's falling apart at work, but I was going to be able to get to the temple that day. And it was like, if I can get this, and this done, I could leave work. And I was going to be able to get to the temple. And something hit me and something said, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. So work will be work, whatever it is, but I get to focus on something that's bigger, that's going to last longer. Obviously, I don't have that same job anymore. Not in that position, but I'm still seeking for that eternal thing. So, what are we down on ourselves because we're looking at, oh, poor me, or are we looking at, I can accomplish this because I've accomplished harder things.
Well, I've been in a situation where some things that I've gone through where I remember waking up in the morning and I'm not kidding, it's paralyzing. It was just hard to brush my teeth. I know that sounds super silly, but I'm serious. I remember actually many mornings waking up and just setting a goal of just brushing my teeth.
Right.
Just get up and be human.
Right.
That was it. I really didn't, at a period of my time, I lost my job or whatever it might have been. Where maybe I didn't have a massive responsibility, but I was so crippled by the way I was thinking and approaching my problems, I couldn't even brush my teeth. And so what's changed in my viewpoint and the way that I'm trying to tackle these challenges is 5 feet at a time. So one of my favorite things that I like to do is to climb Mount Timpanogos, but I always hit a certain spot and I can point it out every time. It's a rock with this tree, and I know right where it's at. And that's all I focus on. I'm like, I know once I hit that, I'm going to quit. That's just where I'm going to be mentally. And I said, no, I got to think 5 feet, 5 feet. So when I'm good, I'm like thinking 5 feet, 5 feet, 5 feet, 5 feet, 5 feet. And then I hit that and I'm like, oh, and now I've got to do it. And so then I start playing mind tricks. Oh, okay, well, you know what? I'll quit when I make that 5 feet. Okay, I'll quit over there. Oh, look, there's a little bit better shade than where you are. And I'll play mental tricks against me that are pushing forward. Now, this could be self-sabotaging the other way because I think we do it the other way. I think it's easier to do it the other way. Like, oh, you're not good enough, or you're not in shape, or you don't have the talent, or whatever it might be. So we do it all the time, and we trick ourselves out of accomplishing something great when we're in adversity versus trying to trick yourself into like, no, the shade, it's going to be cooler over there in that shade over there. You just got to go 10 more feet that way. And you know what? Sure enough, most of the time it's actually true. And I sit there and I think, and I give myself a moment to think, well, what's the reward at the end? I mean, you just had an opportunity where you climbed up to 10.
That's right. I was actually just going to say that. I recently climbed up to Emerald Lake, which is on the way to
just
the
at
top
the base
of 10.
of the...
Yep, just right underneath the saddle.
It's gorgeous.
And very, very pretty. But yeah, I totally know what you're talking about, where you hit that wall. And for me, it was the shale rock slide against the mountain right below Emerald
because your
Lake.
feet are going like...
And I mean, you take one step forward and 2 steps back because it's super hard to keep your footing and everything. But... and I was carrying a big, heavy backpack on my back, and my family was splitting it up into 2 days, and so they brought up all their heavy equipment and everything. So that was really hard. And I guess what I was thinking about when you were talking about that is the question of how do we prepare for those adverse moments that we face? That's
perfect, because that's exactly what you have to go into. If you have experience. Like, for instance, the climb. The first time I climbed Timpanogos, it was miserable. It was horrible because I didn't know what to expect. And then you let a year go by, and for some reason in my little pea brain, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do that again. You forget all the pain. But this time you approach it, and like you were saying, well, I know once I hit about a certain point, it's going to hit me. And then you get a little bit better at it and a little bit better at it, kind of like what you're talking about. But preparing yourself, I think the first step in preparing yourself in anything that might be coming is to first realize no one is exempt from facing adversity. I don't know of anyone that has a magic genie or a magic wand or whatever, and everything in their life is just magically perfect. If you can accept the fact that life is going to always be really hard in one form or another, that doesn't mean that we just surrender and say, oh, well, what's the point? I think that if we know it's coming, we can't avoid it, then what do we have to do to get ready for it? What are your thoughts, Sean, about getting ready for adversity? Putting him on the spot.
Yeah, I have all these thoughts going through my head, and I'm not sure how to put them together. So it's, life is trials. I mean, you get up, and even 5-year-olds have to figure out how to deal with all the kindergarten stuff that they're going to deal with. But we don't learn, and I've kind of figured this out late in life, but you don't learn until you get through it and know that, and the last part of that is to know that you got through it.
Right.
So
owning it.
Yeah, it's I got past whatever, but I'm going to put that out of my head. It's like, well, then you didn't learn. If you go back and go, well, these were the hard parts. This is where I wanted to quit. This is where I wanted to cry. But I got past it. That's where you start growing. That's where you start becoming the person that can take on that next big thing.
I think you hit the nail on the head on that one because, I mean, you go through experiences that are super hard and you don't realize what you've learned from it until after and until you get over it. And I mean, for a 5-year-old, they think it's the end of the world if their clothes don't match, or like if
the wrong fruit snacks.
Pencil
I think.
breaks.
That's the last I heard.
Snacks. Their eyes get really big, and they're like, "What?"
Yeah, right.
And it's just you've just changed their dynamic of what they thought the world was.
Right. And then you get older and you realize
that doesn't
how
really
naive
matter.
you were,
Yeah, but you still have those fruit snacks. There's something we get up and like today, I mean, everything was going and then wow, we don't have this. that changes the whole dynamic of the day. It's like, wait a second, this is what we were doing today, but the fruit snacks are wrong. It's like, but now we know. Oh, okay, calm down. We know how to get more fruit snacks. This totally not making sense. But we know where the fruit snacks are. We can go get the fruit snacks. We can move forward with.
Let's take it to an extreme. I think the most extreme form of conflict that any human can encounter is war. I think that we have seen the worst cases and the worst behavior of people because of war. We've had to act because of war. We've had to step up for the less fortunate because of war. Everything from rape to genocide to, just horrible things. And I believe in a supreme being and I believe in a God. And it questions me all the time. Like, how could God possibly watch his children perform this way and not just squash them like an ant? That's what I would do. You guys are dumb and just, that's what I would do. I really would. And it's interesting to me why. And after we come back from this break, I want to talk about why I don't think he'll smash us like an ant.
Today's sponsor is W.K. Wilson. From wooden plaques on your wall to bow ties that you can wear, W.K. Wilson creates amazing and unique designs that captivate the eyes of any who see them. These great creations are made by laser cutting many layers of wood and fitting them all together. The wooden plaques and bow ties make a special gift for friends, newlyweds, and loved ones. Visit their website today at wk-wilson.com.
All right, welcome back to the Zion in Mind podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Johnson. I'm here with Sean Wilson, and I'm also here with Caleb Vanderhoff. I don't know why I have just a titch of it. Just think before you say his last name.
I think you had to say it.
How long have we known each other now?
Vanderhoff.
What, 10 years, 15 years?
I think a lot of people get my name wrong.
Vanderhoff. I'm just kidding. We've not known each other that long, but it feels like we've known each other that long.
It's been called many times in school. It's
Vanderhoff.
Vanderhoff. Sometimes it's like when I tell people my last name, I used to mumble a lot when I was younger, and people thought I would say Vanderhoff, and so when they would go out to spell it, they'd do a B, and it would just make me angry every single time.
That's a cool name for a band.
Vanderhoff. Performing now.
We are Vanderhoff.
we are Vanderhoff. All right, back to subject here. We were talking about adversity, and we took it pretty extreme, where we have an outside observer.
Took it far,
we have an outside observer watching what we're doing, and he's experiencing not only this current moment in our life of what we're doing, but he's also seen the history, and I think that he knows the future. And why does he not just squash us or say, "I'm done with this"?
I thought you were licking. Somebody was licking.
I have.
Honestly, I looked up too, and I was.
I have my thoughts about why, but they are my own personal thoughts. I'm not gonna
So you're talking about why would a supreme being allow someone to brutalize another, so his son or daughter, brutalize another son or daughter? Why is that even allowed? Brutalize, take advantage of, imprison, take freedom from, take every cherishable thing that they have. Why is that even allowed?
And then warping everything that's sacred and destroying it and making it look like it's good and virtuous, and it's not.
I think also another sensitive topic for a lot of people is, why do good or bad things happen to good people? And
there we are.
Yeah, and there we are. I mean, that's what we're talking about, right?
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Way too simple of a phrase.
And this whole entire ingredient can go into philosophies. It can go into so many different elements, but there's only one answer, in my opinion. And so I could try to give you a really good logical explanation, of you grow and you're a good person, and this supreme being knows that your character is going to develop and you're going to become better, and there's this eternal perspective that he can see. And I really hate hearing that eternal perspective. I hate it more than anything. Why? Because I can't have that perspective. I struggle at having that vision of what he might be able to see.
So someone's telling you something, it's like, I'm not even there. I don't understand what you're even talking about.
I hate that answer. Oh, it's just you got to have a better perspective, eternal perspective.
Okay, but you keep going because I want to argue with you. So keep going.
So my thought is, you can't have this equation where you bring in a supreme power who is watching how this is navigating through without having the element of the atonement and having a Christ. Or there's several different religions that have some monumental figure in their life that has come into and changing the perspective of the people. For me, it's Christ. Okay? And for me, in my beliefs, I really believe that God sent his son here in order to take care of this element of agency and the folly of man. And I do see a period of time where the consequence of that is Christ being able to heal that. So the worst I could think that you could do to another human is rape. I mean, I think it's one of the, I'm sure there's other things too, but for me, in my mind, I can't even wrap my brain around it. I think it is horrifying to even think of doing something like that. And then that person, the psychological effect that it has for them going forward. And honestly, I can't see a person ever getting over that in their lifetime. Done. It's a done thing. But I can envision a moment where they're in the embrace of Christ and him healing them. And that bond that they will now have with Christ will be eternal. That is the eternal perspective, I think, of God, our creator, is, hey, I've got a plan. Just trust me. Hang on. It's really bad right now, but you're going to have this beautiful moment with him. And when you do, you will have a relationship with him that will be unbreakable. And he will cure it. And I promise you won't feel what you're feeling right now. And he can live in that. He can sit there and watch this, and I think he might have to. Kind of maybe just peer in there and see, oh, you know what? That's a beautiful moment. That's a beautiful moment. Just hang on, hang on. That's kind of how I see. I hope that it turns out that way.
One of the questions that always used to come up a lot with me when I was growing up and everything was, why doesn't God just make us perfect from the get-go?
Yep.
And we just, go through life and not face anything? And I think it's because then we wouldn't learn anything.
Absolutely.
If you think of, going to more of a religious spin on it, if you think of Adam and Eve when they were in the Garden of Eden, they were completely innocent. They just, they had no idea what was bad and what was, they couldn't really know what was good because they didn't know the bad. And so I think that's one of the reasons why bad things happen to good people, is because you always learn from one of those, experiences that you go through.
And sometimes it won't happen. Yeah, you hope you do. That's a good point.
Yeah,
you hope you do.
Yeah.
Because there are things, and I've met people that have come into this store, and they've shared some personal experiences with me, and I'm like, if I went through that, there was no return for me. That'd be the end for me. I mean, I couldn't handle that. And as I hear their conversations and they talk about how they were able to go to here and they were able to go to here, and then eventually this opened up. But what's the most beautiful part, and where I want to wrap this up because we have 4 minutes left, is that I do believe, yes, I know there are other circumstances that may not be healed in this lifetime. There may be some psychological problems that won't happen in this lifetime. You won't be able to get resolved until you maybe see Christ, okay? I know that's there, and I don't want to downplay that. But I can say for me personally, I really thought when I was going through the challenges, that was going to have to be me. There were some things that I wouldn't be able to forgive in this lifetime. There were things that I won't be able to get over in this lifetime. And I had an experience this last week that was powerful. And I don't want to go into the sacredness of that, but I knew deep down in my core that there's a purpose and there is a plan and that we are powerful, powerful people. We are very powerful. And we don't give ourselves the credit that we need to understand that we can step up and we can learn from that adversity and we can become something great because of that. And not only when we do become great, just a natural consequence of that is people are drawn to it. They want to hear it. They want to experience it with you because they have their own challenges and they can look at you and say, you did it. And it's hard because we don't want to divulge what those things are, right? They're personal. Some things that we go through, some mistakes that we made, we don't want to just air that out in the public, and that's where I'm at in the fence. I'm really struggling. Do I tell people about this? Do I back off? Because
I'm really glad you brought up that point because I think, not only when I think also, you hope that you learn a lot from all of your experiences and everything, what Sean was saying. I think when you share those experiences with other people, I think that's part of the learning process behind
It's
that.
part of the healing process.
And it's also part of the healing
Right.
process. But I think you also learn when you teach.
Yeah.
I know that I learn so much more when I teach a lesson instead of sit there and listen.
Do you have a thought?
Yeah, so many things. But I'm going to bring it back to your quote for this
Yeah.
thing. So adversity is the gift. I can't read your.
Yeah, sorry,
over
my
there.
handwriting. Adversity is the gift to the master that can wield it for good.
Okay, so I think because we have this faith in Christ, we have a gift that I don't know if we understand how special that is, because we can go through hard things,
Impossible things.
and
Yes.
realize that we have an opportunity to look at it for our own good.
Yeah.
So some people in life don't even understand that. Okay, all this, why do bad
It's
things
very
happen to
dark.
good people?
Very dark.
If you don't have a savior, if you don't have someone that says, I don't think you're looking at this right,
Right.
there's an eternal perspective that you're missing. And I think just having that idea of an eternal perspective or another perspective when we are hitting hard things is such a wonderful gift when you know there could be a good outcome.
Well, and if you're not a religious person, just the power within. I mean, I think in my thought personally, we're a co-creator. We're in our experience in this life. We're contributing to that, and if you can just tap into that power of understanding that adversity can change for good, if you allow it to. If you could focus, like you're going through this, and I've done this many times. I close my eyes and I just imagine speaking to a crowd of people. I'm not saying that it'll ever happen, but just imagine people out there in the crowd that you're changing their life because of what you went through. It changes your dynamic. You go from being a victim to becoming a hero. And that's the shift that we have to do. We have to not see ourselves as the victim. We need to move into the hero realm and see how we can power through this adversity that we're in.
And I think just one last thought is, for those of everyone who's listening to this, for me even, if you feel like you can't make it, just listen to Aaron's advice and take it just 5 feet at a time.
5 feet at a time.
Yeah. Because everyone's climbing their own mountain. And sometimes it feels like you just want to quit and you want to fall down and just lay down and just die.
Yep.
But no, keep holding on, because you will get through it. You will continue forward and you will become that much better.
Well, you guys have given me a little bit of courage, and I feel like I know we're starting to run out of time, and I'm not trying to end this with a big bang, but I'm really feeling like I should. On that note, I really pushed hard in my life and had some pretty traumatic things that happened, and I was done. I was checked out, and I hate to admit it, I was there, and I think you guys know what I mean. I was done. And something inside of me, I don't know where it came from. I don't know how it happened. I mean, I do now. At the time, I didn't know how it happened, but this fire just lit. In fact, I got to give a lot of credit to Sean's wife, because we worked together, and she was a really good mentor for me at this time in my life. And she said some things that were really magical as well. Very, very, very powerful. So I got to give her some credit too. But there was a trigger that happened, and I made a change, and it revived my life. And then I met my wife, Angie, 3 months later. And everything changed. So if you are a person that's listening right now, and I don't mean to get too personal, who is at that level and who's there, I've been there. I know how dark it is. You don't know what's coming right around the corner. Hang on. If you can turn this adversity into a gift that you can master and wield it for good, I promise you'll look back at these things that are challenging you and you'll be grateful for them. So I'm Aaron Johnson. This is the Zion in Mind podcast.
I'm Caleb Vanderhoff.
And I'm Sean Wilson.
Thank you guys for listening.